These termites are eating into the very vitals of our nation. You will find them in almost every political party in India. But BJP and Congress share these to such an extent that they have become ugly distortions of their original selves. The termites have done such a perfect job of disfiguration that it is impossible to tell BJP from the Congress. They look so identical nowadays. BJP's innings in power began with an uncanny resemblance to Nehruvian vision when Atal Bihari Vajpayee played the role of a sober, tolerant, and far-sighted stalwart steering India onto the path of growth and development. In fact, he shared Nehru's vision of making India a global moral force with economic muscle. Like Nehru, Vajpayee had capable persons belonging to diverse ideologies in his cabinet. He deftly negotiated the challenging contradictions within the NDA. Nehru's cabinet also had leaders pursuing different or diverse ideologies, although they belonged to the Congress, and some were initially from outside of Congress too. And their ideologies ranged from left to right. Some were of the centrist ideology too, but basically the range was wide from left to right. Many, including Sardar Patel, differed with him on several issues, but they stayed within the party and the government because there was enough space given to dissent in the decision-making processes of the Nehru government, as well as in the Congress party. I mean, it was not just in the government as such, but even in the Congress party. PM Modi, despite his high decibel demagoguery, is an undersized leader who has apparently stepped into the shoes which are too big for him. Let us be very, very clear on this. He is popular because he can sway the uninformed with a mix of half-truths and hyperbole. Those who worship Modi should know that content is far, far more important than perception, but he hardly impresses the informed. If you observe his selection of colleagues and high officials, you detect his intolerance of dissent and extreme sense of insecurity. He avoids taking bright persons into his cabinet or important positions of power in different departments of the government or even autonomous bodies like the RBI. And this is a fact. We have been watching this. Those who differed with him but were brilliant had been shown the door in the past. So only conformists will remain with Modi. His media management techniques have created an aura around him that is misleading and harmful to his party and the country in the long run. In many ways, he reminds us of Indira Gandhi during her final years in power. Her desperate bid to cling to power and distrust of colleagues manifested in the Indian National Congress's slide to the bottom, from where it is still finding it difficult to rise. What Indira Gandhi did to various powerful leaders in different states, for example, N.T. Ramarao of Andhra Pradesh, Ramakrishna Hegde of Karnataka, Devi Lal of Haryana, and Yashwantrao Chavan of Maharashtra, immensely harmed the country's political environment. It was quite clear that she wanted to keep the power for her descendants, a tradition being followed by Sonia Gandhi now. Consequently, the Congress party resembles a skeleton. It is visible, but it is lifeless. BJP's shenanigans during the Bihar elections clearly showed that it has refined some of the Congress tricks for cutting regional stalwarts to size, even if they are allies. The BJP leadership was keen on clipping Nitish Kumar's wings by using Chirag Paswan as their hatchet man. Consequently, they have a disgruntled ally now. And this ally has a history of deserting alliances midstream. The memory of JDU breaking up with its ally RJD and teaming up with BJP to form government in Bihar in 2017 is still fresh in our minds. BJP's unprincipled politics on the national stage is far more worrisome. From being a party with a difference, the BJP is nothing more than a 21st century avatar of the Indian National Congress of the 70s and 80s. BJP's treatment of alliance partners like Shiv Sena, Akali Dal, PDP and now JDU is only creating uncertainties that may have unforeseen repercussions for BJP in the future. Naturally, there will be reactions when BJP starts weakening. That it's a circle from it is at its zenith now, from where it has to slide sooner or later. BJP's arrogance is based on its predominant status that has been fabricated by engineering defections from Congress and other parties. It is not the original BJP which is dominating the political scenario. It is BJP plus defectors. This we must always remember. Most of these defectors have unsavory backgrounds, including convictions and serious criminal charges which comprise rapes, corruption, and murders. Such elements may ultimately corrode the BJP's dedication to core values built around discipline and nationalism. Because these people who have come in now, these defectors, they don't believe in discipline, and certainly nationalism is not one of their weaknesses or virtues. Indira Gandhi's divisive tactics wrought havoc in Punjab and Assam. We all know. Before that, emergency did a lot of damage to our institutions. It hurt our country like anything. Her attempts to diminish Akali Dal's hold over the Sikh vote by propping up Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale created the monster of separatism, which was far more real than Victor Frankenstein's invention in Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley's novel. For the first time in independent India's history, the Khalistan movement threatened to unravel the Republic of India. The inherent good sense of Punjabis, however, thwarted the worst of national disasters. It had less to do with the government initiatives and more to do with the common sense of Punjabis. This we must always remember. Modi's BJP is using similar tactics on a frighteningly larger scale. The targeting of Christians, Muslims, and Dalits is bound to eventually hurt the country's interests. Worse, the letting loose of brainwashed, lumpen youth on all those who disapprove of Hindutva is a sure invitation to anarchy. We should always remember that these elements, these lumpen youths, they are there for hire. They owe loyalty to none, neither the country nor any political party. Whoever hires them, they will do the dirty work for them. This we should always remember, and even their so-called patrons also. It is rather disquieting that Instead of inspiring our youth through positive role models in economic, industrial, political, and social spheres, they are being trained as rude trolls, hecklers, and antisocial gangs. The BJP started it and Congress has followed suit. Although other political outfits also have their own brand of ruffians who intimidate political dissenters. Their destructive potential is comparatively limited. I mean, these regional parties, they can only operate in a very small area when compared to what BJP and its followers can do, or for that matter, even Congress. Common people want to earn their livelihoods in peace and with dignity. They are the ones who contribute to the nation's progress and prosperity. And they are the ones who are suffering the most because of deteriorating political, social, and economic situation all over the country now. Whether Modi wears a beard or a 1 million rupee suit is immaterial. It does not matter what he wears and what sort of image he projects. What matters is the quality of leadership he is capable of providing to the nation. On the other hand, we do not expect Congress to be scared of standing by its traditional values of secularism, socialism, and pluralism. It need not go to the soft Hindutva path, because that will show that it has no faith in its own inherent values, and that is suicidal for any political party. Congress needs to rejuvenate the values given by the founders of the Republic of India's Constitution. We should not forget what is expected of the rulers of this country by our Constitution. Dedication to democratic liberal values, discipline in the conduct of politics, honesty in running the government, and sincere efforts at nation building are the minimum one expects from its politicians. Be they in power or in opposition, it doesn't really matter. Even the opposition has to be part of the nation building efforts. They just cannot be opposition for the opposition's sake. They should be able to present constructive ideas during debates, and the ruling party, whichever it is, should allow constructive debates to happen in the parliament, which is not happening now. And this is very unfortunate. If BJP and Congress, mind you, if they fail to realize their true roles as nation builders, India may drift into troubled waters in every sense of the word. Political, social, economic, you name it. Because once the people who are supposed to guide the nation in a particular direction, they are supposed to provide coherence, focus, and a vision to the nation. If they themselves fail the nation, then the nation will flounder. We cannot afford this even when former basket cases like Vietnam and Bangladesh are racing ahead of us towards a post-modern world while we are regressing into medievalism. We are. You have to just see the trolls and their behavior not only on social media but even in public places. The gundas are everywhere. If we want to rebuild a strong and vibrant democratic nation, we need to wipe out these termites in our polity. I am talking about the termites I referred to earlier in this vlog. Also now, these are other termites, the antisocial elements, etc., etc. But are our netas listening? Thank you for being with me. I'll come back with another episode. Bye till then.